Hello human beings, PowerGamer here. I know you're expecting me to be my usual chipper, happy self, but I'm afraid we're going to have to be serious, because tonight is a very special episode. Feel free to watch this with a parent or loved one and discuss the topics that we'll be showcasing today. Ready? Okay. Tonight we're going to be talking about drugs. There are many drugs that can cause severe harm to one's body. Alcohol weakens your liver, tobacco gives you cancer, marijuana either makes you the life of the party or spill your deepest desires, neither of which are preferable, but none of these compare to a new drug that is making its way around. The fuzzy. The fuzzy is a rare material that simply by making contact with the user can warp one's sense of reality to an alarming degree. Your depth perception becomes foggy, the colors begin to swirl, and for some reason everything around you looks incredibly delicious. As an example of what the fuzzy can do to you, take a look at this young fella right here. His name is Yoshi, and he made his big screen debut in the iconic classic Super Mario World. He was such a fan favorite that he received the starring role in one of the most acclaimed 2D platformers ever created, but in this platformer, he would be exposed to the fuzzy. And his life has never been the same since. I mean, just look at what happened to him now. Tragic.
Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, a beloved sequel that isn't actually a sequel. Yeah, don't let that title fool you, this is a follow-up to Super Mario World in name only. Aside from sharing two characters and swapping their roles, this is a completely different game. But just because it varies quite heavily doesn't mean it can't shine in its own way. This game is one of the most popular titles to ever come from the Mario series, be it mainline or spin-off. After making his debut in Super Mario World, Yoshi quickly became one of the most popular characters in the franchise. Granted, there weren't that many at the time, but still. So after he was featured in two puzzle games, Shigeru Miyamoto asked his original designer, Shigefumi Hino, to make an original project. Since Hino believed they'd accomplish everything they could with 2D Mario at that point, he decided to make Yoshi the main focus, with Mario being carried along for the ride. To justify this decision, the game was turned into a prequel where Mario was just a baby. They wanted the game to be more accessible to newcomers, so the traditional Mario time limit was scrapped, and the game was given more of an exploration focus. The art style was drastically different from previous titles, as everything was completely hand-drawn by artist Hayashi Nogami, I assume I butchered that, but whatever, and scanned into the game, giving it the appearance of a storybook. However, the game utilized the SNES's Super FX2 microchip to incorporate 3D elements as well. Yoshi's Island was released for the Super Famicom on August 5th, 1995 in Japan, with it coming to the SNES and the rest of the world later that same year. While it was extremely different from the first Super Mario World, it certainly shared its level of praise, as Yoshi's Island was met with widespread acclaim and is still often considered one of the best 2D platformers of all time. It managed to sell over 4 million copies, and it was later ported to the GBA as the third entry in the Super Mario Advanced series. Yeah, these things were weird. Advanced 1 was Mario 2, Advanced 2 was World, Advanced 3 was Yoshi's Island, and Advanced 4 was Mario 3. If Yoshi wasn't already one of the most popular Mario characters, this game certainly cemented it. He would basically gain his own sub-series, to the point where in Super Smash Bros. He's technically classified as being from the Yoshi series and not the Mario series, even though he's the only character from that series and Mario is where he came from, so I think that's kinda weird. Especially since with a couple exceptions, okay, really just Yoshi's Woolly World, none of the later Yoshi games even came close to being as beloved as the original Yoshi's Island.
I had played this game before, and while I made it fairly far, I never quite finished it. I remember enjoying this title, but not quite as much as most people did, which is probably why I ended up dropping it. Either way, I think it's time I finally buckle down and see this game all the way through. Let's fire up the old SNES Classic and return to our favorite land of dinosaurs.
As I stated, this game is essentially a prequel to not just Super Mario World, but basically the entire Mario franchise. It opens with a stork flying through the air holding two babies to be delivered to their parents, but out of nowhere, a magic Koopa named Kamek attacks the stork and kidnaps one of the babies, with the other one falling to the island below onto an oblivious Yoshi. Miraculously, the baby who's revealed to be Mario survives the fall.
Because remember, fall damage didn't exist until Super Mario 64. Oh, wait, no, it was in Donkey Kong. God, this timeline's weird.
And Yoshi takes him to his friends, who decide it's up to them to bring him back to his family and save the other baby, who's implied to be Luigi. But Kamek realizes he only has one baby, so he sends his lackeys to find the other one. About as simple of a plot as the other Mario games, but it does give us some backstory to the Mario world. I don't know why Kamek wants to kidnap the baby so bad, but who really cares? I'm just gonna say it now, I think Yoshi's Island is the best looking SNES game I have ever played. The 16-bit era led to some amazing looking games, but this is on a whole other level. The sprite work is fantastic, the animations are great, and the colors just pop so hard. The whole thing really does look right out of a storybook, and I absolutely love it. Even the 3D objects work pretty seamlessly, which also looks great. Given that this game was released so late into the console's lifespan, they pushed the graphics to their limits, and I am so glad they did. And the music is also fantastic. Much like Super Mario World, we get a good balance of happy, joyful songs, more chill and laid-back ones, and surprisingly kinda intense tunes, which all sound incredible. Now as to the gameplay, like I said, it's pretty different from the main Mario games. You play as Yoshi, or more accurately secretly a bunch of Yoshis as you carry Baby Mario throughout the level. The game is essentially a relay race where every time you beat a level, one Yoshi passes Baby Mario onto the next one to keep going. We have a lot more Yoshi colors this time, but unlike in Super Mario World, they don't have different powers. They all control exactly the same, but we have a lot more moves to work with than last time. You can still jump on enemies and even do a ground pound by pressing down while in the air, but your main method of defense is eating them with your tongue, which can now be aimed upward. Though when you eat an enemy, you can either spit it back out at other enemies, or the more helpful move, pushing down on the D-pad to turn them into eggs. You can carry 6 eggs at any given time, and mostly grab them from enemies, though you'll occasionally find them lying around or grab them from these boxes. Eggs can then be used as a projectile to kill other enemies, grab things like coins, carve through dirt, and activate these clouds, which either burst into goodies or create some sort of terrain like a bridge or stairs. But you don't actually aim the eggs yourself. Instead, there's this little reticle that rotates up and down automatically, so you gotta get the timing right. This can be a little weird at first, but after a few levels, you should get it down. You want to have as many eggs as possible, so you'll always be prepared for what's ahead.
The egg throwing mechanic in this game is honestly really cool, and it leads to a wide variety of fun scenarios in terms of enemy encounters, puzzles, and especially boss fights.
Yoshi's also better equipped for platforming in this game. By holding down the jump button, he can perform the new flutter jump where he shakes his feet to stay in the air for a couple of seconds and give himself a little boost. This is an awesome technique since it has no limit. You can spam this thing as much as you want, aside from a half-second pause in between each one. This lets you make larger jumps and can save you from certain doom many times. It's not as overpowered as something like Kirby's floating, but it does make the game much easier, especially since this game is very generous with landing on edges. As a whole, this game is ridiculously easy. Most of your deaths come from the platforming, which honestly isn't that tricky, and the game is really generous with lives. Every time you die, you get sent back to your last checkpoint, and the game auto-saves after each level, which is pretty impressive for the time period, so getting a game over isn't that big a deal. There are enemies you have to deal with, but most of them die pretty easily, and Yoshi is basically invincible in this game, at least from them anyway. Plus, in addition to the jump, eat, egg combo, you can find some power-ups along the way, like these watermelons. The normal ones let you spit seeds, the red ones let you breathe fire, and the blue ones let you freeze enemies. The low difficulty mainly comes from the fact that you don't have a health meter. Instead, every time you get hit, Baby Mario goes flying off in a bubble, and you have a set amount of time to reach him while he assaults your eardrums. If you touch him in time, you can just keep moving, but if you don't, he gets captured and you lose a life. By default, you have 10 seconds, and the timer refills to 10 slowly over time. But you can also collect these stars to increase the time limit, and you get 10 extra seconds every time you touch a checkpoint ring. Most of the enemies are pretty straightforward, but there are some you can't kill, or give you more trouble, like these little brats that swipe Baby Mario from you and move really fast, or these extremely annoying piranha plants that take 3 hits to kill and hold you for a few seconds, meaning you lose extra time. And if you know anything about this game, you know that during development, testers would ignore Baby Mario when he went flying away, so the team deliberately made him cry as loudly and annoyingly as possible so that grabbing him is always your top priority. If it wasn't for Baby Mario, Yoshi would have no trouble going through these places, since the only things that harm him are instant death traps like pits, lava, and spikes.
Like I said earlier, this game was intended to be a lot simpler and have more of a focus on exploration.
Much like Sonic or Crash, a lot of the levels have branching paths you can take and hidden rooms to find, which usually hold extra goodies. There's 2 main collectibles hidden in every level, 5 of these big flowers that are added to this roulette wheel at the end of the stage, and 20 red coins, which look like normal coins, only with a slight tint at the bottom. At the end of each level, you're given a score based on criteria of collecting these, as well as what the Baby Mario timer is at. The game is split into 6 worlds with 8 levels apiece, and if you get a perfect score of 100 on all of them, you unlock 2 bonus levels at the end of each one. Yeah, I don't recommend doing this. You not only have to scour every corner of the level for the coins and flowers, but also make sure you grab enough stars and don't take damage for the majority of the level all in one go. Yeah, these aren't permanent collectibles. They reset every time you finish the level, so if you screw up, you have to replay them constantly, hence why I did not get these. But what was that I said about a roulette wheel? Well, each level ends with you jumping into this hoop and passing on the eggs and Baby Mario to the next Yoshi in line, because there's only so much of that crying one dinosaur can take. There's 10 spots, and 5 of them are replaced with flowers, assuming you got them all. If the spin lands on one of the flowers, you're taken to a bonus game where you can earn extra lives and special items that do things like refill the timer or give you a melon. There's a match 2 game, just picking one item at random, a slot machine for lives, and even betting your lives to try and get more. Nintendo, turning children into gambling addicts since 1995. Even if trying to get everything is extremely annoying, these levels do have some great replay value. Like I said, there's a lot of cool secrets you can find, and if that's not your thing, you can just push forward fairly comfortably. Once in a while, you'll have a level where it's easy to get lost, but for the most part, things are pretty straightforward. As a whole, this game has some great level design. There's some really fun ideas in here, and nothing feels super cheap. For the most part. And thanks to that disappointingly expensive chip in the cartridge, they were able to do some really cool things, like have much more depth for rotating platforms, make things literally come flying at the screen towards you, and probably the most famous, getting Yoshi high. Yeah, a few levels have these fuzzies in them, and the more you touch, the more warped the level becomes and the harder it is to control, so be careful.
In addition to the standard platforming, every once in a while a level will shake things up.
Every once in a while, you'll find a bubble that transforms Yoshi into different vehicles. You then have to race through as fast as possible to reach this box to turn back, otherwise he gets sent back to the bubble. There's a helicopter, which can fly, a mole, which can dig around walls and the controls are really confusing, a car, which just kind of lifts itself, and a submarine for water travel that can shoot homing missiles with horrible accuracy. There's also a level where Yoshi randomly gets skis, and a couple of areas where you ride on this adorable dog named Poochie. You can also grab the Superstar, which puts Baby Mario in control, making him completely invincible and letting him run along walls. Again, there's 6 worlds in this game, and they have slight themes to them, but much like Donkey Kong Country, they aren't completely set in stone. World 1 is grass, 2 is rock, 3 is water, 4 is sky, kinda, 5 is ice, and 6 is fire, slightly. Every 4 stages is a castle level, all of which contain a boss fight, and what I really like about these is that they're all basic enemies that Kamek uses magic on them to make them grow in size and strength, which is a really cool idea. As a whole, this game is pretty fun, but there are a couple minor issues I have. One is I think it can be a little too simple. There are a lot of cool things you can do, but there are a lot of moments where all you need to do is just run and you'll be fine. It doesn't really feel like much is going on, and this isn't a huge problem, but I did find myself getting a little tired of this game after a bit. And this leads into my second problem, where some of the levels go on a bit too long. Again, this doesn't happen too often, but there were a handful of stages where I think they should have stopped way sooner. Mainly the auto-scrolling levels, I didn't really have a good time with these. These didn't ruin the game for me, but I did start to feel a little burnt out after a while, and this game isn't even that long.
Well, there isn't too much to say about most of the levels, so let's just go through the boss fights.
World 1 has a balloon guy you just chuck eggs at, and a slime you also chuck eggs at, only he shrinks. World 2 has a boo you need to face away from and then hit, and a ghost in a flower pot you need to push off the edge while these shy guys push it back. World 3 has a frog that eats you and you gotta hit his uvula, god that face has seen some stuff, and a piranha plant you just need to hit the weak spot of while he swims back and forth. World 4 has this blob you jump on, causing him to split into smaller blobs, and a Koopa you hit in the head with eggs and then jump on the stomach. World 5 has this slug where you need to hit the heart as he pushes you back, and this is the only boss that killed me because you have to hit it in just the right spot, as well as a bird on a small planet you gotta hit with these pegs. And World 6 has a spike ball you knock into lava by breaking these blocks. The final level is this really long series of traps with multiple doors to go through and an annoying auto-scrolling section with Kamek. In the end, you finally reach Kamek's master, Baby Bowser, who just looks funny in this game. When he slams down, it causes these shockwaves on the floor, but the same goes for you, so that's how you hurt him. But then Kamek uses his magic to make Baby Bowser grow frickin' enormous. He causes rocks to fall, which destroys the ground, and comes stomping towards you to spit fire. You gotta jump back and forth, grabbing these giant eggs, and then hurl them back at him in the background. This fight is fairly easy, but still really cool, especially with the music. After beating Baby Bowser, he returns to normal, and Kamek flies away with him, allowing Yoshi to free the stork and Baby Luigi. The stork then carries both Mario and Luigi to their parents, and the game ends.
Game conquered. Yoshi's Island is a really solid game. I don't think I quite love it as much as most people do, but that might just be a me thing. I can still highly recommend it, as it's got some cool levels and boss fights, fun gameplay mechanics, and it's just an overall good time. And it's a great way to prepare you for parenthood, as it only takes one playthrough for Baby Mario's crying to be permanently seared into your subconscious. Thus, when your actual baby starts crying, it won't make any difference whatsoever.